Hello, and welcome to the Path of Most Persistence. This is a place where we hear and share tenacious stories of overcoming obstacles with our partners who dare to share a bit of their own personal paths. Abigail Palacios is a clinical fellow speech-language pathologist. She has earned a bachelor's in science in communication sciences and disorders, a master's in education in special education, and master's of science in communication and science disorders. Abigail is ready and focused to take on professional opportunities and maximize her skill set. Abigail, it is lovely having you here today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
So you drove in to College Station today just a few moments ago?
Yes, I think I got here around 1.
Okay, good. And it's a beautiful day, so hopefully your travel was perfect.
Yeah, no troubles, thankfully.
Good. Well, this is the first time we are meeting, and it's lovely meeting you. But I want to know why you were recommended to me. Just recently, we had a guest on, I think you know who we're talking of, and after our conversation, she said, I really have to have Abigail on. You really have to have her on. I'm going to give you her contact information. Why would she recommend you to me to be on this podcast?
Well, she's an amazing person, and she's a really, really good friend of mine. We actually met in college, the undergrad school that she started off at. We were on the same golf team together. Nice. So she's really seen me grow, I would say, from, just like a little teenager to now an adult. And we've been through a lot together, like highs and lows. So she's seen me kind of dig myself out from some low points in my life, and we've always been there for each other. So I think if anybody knows what I've been through, it's her.
I love that. Should we say her name?
Yes.
Okay, do you want to identify her?
Yes, it's Begonia Aranguren.
I love it. Thank you so much. I don't want to take any time away or focus on you, but she is, I think we both have admiration for her and her successes, so it's good to recognize her.
Yes, of course.
But I'm thinking also, and I want to talk about those stages that you've grown in, but I also want to talk about the fact that she probably thinks you know a little bit about persistence, because this is the path of most persistence. So what is your experience with persistence?
I think I would say that it somehow has turned out that in my educational journey, at some point, it's usually the most high stress point, I've had something traumatic happen with family members. Sure. So I had to learn how to just roll with the punches and be there for my family, but also not let my academic goals suffer. So it started in my undergrad. It was my senior year. Yeah. My grandma got diagnosed with cancer. So, and that moment, everything shifted. All my focus shifted to her. Right. So I kind of just put everything on the back burner for a while because I wanted to be there for her. And I was. And eventually she was like, you know what? You've been here long enough. Go finish. Go to work. Do something. And I was with her blessing. I finally got the ball rolling and I started working. But I think that was also a big reason why it took me so long to start grad school, because I was hyper-focused on that. And when I lost her in 2016, that was my, all right, she wouldn't want you to just be here moping around, do something. So that's when I kind of took the plunge and I applied for my first master's program. I moved from Laredo to San Antonio, and that's been my home ever since. And I've honestly never been happier.
Oh, well, that's wonderful to hear. There's so many aspects that I want to visit, so be patient with me as I zigzag through. But first of all, we spoke of Begonia's name, and I feel like it's an appropriate time to maybe say your grandmother's name. Would you like to identify her?
Yes, my abuelita Licha. Her name was Alicia Gutierrez, but I would call her my abuelita Licha.
Thank you so much for sharing her name. I think it's powerful. to say the names of those that have gone before us, and especially those that hold a special place. So thank you for sharing. And I hope, too, that we can talk a little bit about those experiences because you've made a little bit of indication of some of the difficulties that you've had. But I want to know, I'm very curious, Abigail, that you've already mentioned 2 very strong relationships with your friend and your grandmother. So tell me, how is it that you can manage those relationships that we feel love, we feel a responsibility and respect for those that need our care, our attention, but still also follow our own goals and paths and passions? How do you find that balance? How do you persist through managing those responsibilities and that love and those tugs and still do what you need to do for your own life?
I think maintaining those relationships is what keeps me going. So I know that as much as, they rely on me, I rely on them. So if for whatever reason I'm feeling a little low or I'm having some trouble, I know that I can turn to them, and they kind of keep me on track as well to keep me focused. And hey, remember, these are your goals. I'm still going to be here when you're done. Just, take your time. It's okay to be away. I know that like they know that I'll always be back. But they really do kind of help keep me grounded and focused. And sometimes you just need that reassurance that, you're doing the right thing and everything's going to be okay. And I feel like the people that I surround myself with are very good at doing that for me, keeping me in check when the time comes.
That is so important, and it sounds like that really lends to your successes. But have you always surrounded yourself with people that have nurtured you in that way, that have given you that positive support? Or have you ever had experiences where maybe perhaps there have been people in your life or in your circle that maybe did not give you that positive support? And how did you deal with that? Or was that even an experience for you?
Yeah, it was. As I grew into adulthood, it took me a while to figure it out. But once I did, it became clear what I had to do. And it hurts. It hurts a lot, especially if it's somebody that, you've been really close to, or maybe somebody that's even part of your family, But at the end of the day, you have to put yourself first, because you're no good to anybody if you aren't right within yourself. So it's a big learning process, and it took a while, but eventually you have to let those people go because they're just weighing you down.
Okay. I'm going to really lean into this because I think it is so important to have these discussions, and I especially appreciate having your perspective. A young woman that has just recently gained all this academic success, that have had these other important relationships in your life and responsibilities, and then identifying those healthy relationships and those ones that maybe are perhaps not as healthy. So I'm wondering, how do you manage? Because sometimes within families or friendships that are long-standing, it's hard to make a change. Because when people have known you for a very long time, they think they know you, that you're that same Abigail that maybe was 10 years old or 15 years old. You may have changed, but maybe they're not ready for you to make a change. How do you do that and find a balance of what's right for you? But even if it's family or close friends, how do you do that with being true to yourself, but justifying that in your head, because it's hard to do the head and the heart separation, right? So can you share how you were able to do that, or how you continue to manage that process?
Yeah, so it's a lot of back and forth with myself.
Yes.
You want to think with your head but follow your heart.
Yes.
And that sometimes can be difficult, especially if it comes to having to let go of somebody that's been a part of your life for a long time, or was your whole life for a while. Yes. And I think it's something that you have to stop and ask yourself, are you happy? Right? That's the first thing. Are you happy? What what could make you happier? Or if you're not happy, what can be fixed, right? And you have to kind of go down the list and see, all right, these are the things that are making me happy. These are the things that are not making me happy. Or these are things that bring value to my life. And this is not, it's weighing me down, or it doesn't, what once made me happy doesn't make me happy anymore. And you have to be able to recognize that first and foremost before you can decide, okay, what are the changes that need to be made moving forward? And yes, it's going to hurt, and it might hurt other people's feelings. But at the end of the day, like I said, you have to put yourself first, because you can't help other people or be beneficial to them if you yourself aren't on the right track, if that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. And thank you for going in this direction with me. I think for so many of our listeners that's an issue, and it may be a small issue or a large issue, but it's an issue because every family is diverse. But I'm just thinking of, some say, I've heard it mentioned, that you can love someone very much, but not like them so much at the same time, right? Maybe not like the feeling or how you feel around them. So it sounds like that's what you're doing right now. You're identifying the difference between love and like, what's healthy, unhealthy, and you're getting it straight within your head and heart.
Yeah, so it's easy to kind of like fall into a routine, right? And then the way I say, or the way I think is like, I never want to settle, right? So if it's like, oh, well, the good kind of outweighs the bad. Okay, but how bad is the bad,
Yeah,
like when it's good, it's good, but then when it's bad, it's horrible, So first figuring that out, and then not necessarily like maybe cutting it out completely, but just, keeping them at a distance. You don't have to make yourself available to people that are not good for you. But you don't have to be rude to them either. Absolutely. You just choose what you want to share and who you make yourself available for.
That's so wise, Abigail. Thank you so much. I want to lean back on your relationship with your grandmother. So from your very birth, from your very youngest years, were you close to your grandmother?
Yes. So my abuelita Licha was my mom's mom, and then I have my grandma and my grandpa on my dad's side. So they've always been very, very involved, and we're very close. They helped my parents raise me, as they were going to school and working and stuff. I was always with my grandparents. If it wasn't my abuelita, it was my grandma and my grandpa. So they're a huge part of my life, and I owe everything to them, because they've instilled in me like my work ethic, the way that I approach situations, the way that I handle conflict, the way that I do everything is influenced by my grandparents. Like they're always on my mind, and I always do everything that I've done is like hoping that I make them proud. It gets me emotional thinking about it.
Well, that is beautiful. Thank you for sharing. And I'm going to be selfish because I've just recently become a grandmother myself.
Oh, that's amazing.
AKA Bubby. But I want to know, because I, especially at this chapter in my life, I appreciate hearing people's stories about their love of their grandparents. Of course, their parents, because I have children too, obviously. But I want to know what that secret sauce was that your grandmother shared with you. What was it? Because I want to be that kind of grandmother to my granddaughter and all the other ones that come after. But what can I do? How can I provide an environment for her that will nurture love, that same amount of, it sounds like you all had a lot of mutual respect. Mm-hmm. What was that secret sauce? What was in the atmosphere?
I think I was always just surrounded by love with her. Like I knew that no matter what, I could always turn to her. And like she was the one that would like listen to me if I was, oh, my mom doesn't let me cut my hair because of this TV show. She would explain to me, maybe you're not going to want like a little bob a month from now when your hair is super long, or, just like little kid things. But then as I grew older and the problems got bigger, or the worries, the concerns, the dreams, she was always there.
So she was constant.
Yes,
I hear
she was that
consistency.
my grandparents have always been that one constant in my life, always. And they did always have done everything with love, and they've always made me feel that I can do anything if I work for it and I have confidence in myself. That there's nothing that I can't do.
I love that. Thank you. I'm taking all that and I'm putting it in my heart to make sure that's always there. So thank you. But it sounds as though, and obviously since we're just meeting today, I don't know, but I'm feeling from you that you carry that same amount of passion, responsibility, consistency to your academics and your new professional career. Into your relationships. How do you see that you incorporate that into what you do? Are you intentional about applying those characteristics into what you do in all areas of your life?
Yeah, very much so. My friends always kind of like tease me about how I'm like that friend, like that overprotective friend, but also like the friend that like hypes you up all the time, like I'm just,
Yes.
I'm the one that, what is it? Like I hype them up, but then I also bring them back down to earth. And in work, I do the same thing. So I have done home health for a while, and there's something so personal about these families letting you come into their home.
Yes.
And you are coming into their territory. They're opening up their doors to you, and they're trusting you to help their child. And I respect that so much, and I love that they trust me enough to be able to do that. So my thing is, I don't want to let them down, right? So I throw myself into like that work whenever I'm there, and when I'm not there, I'm constantly thinking about it. And when I'm at home writing the note visit, I'm like, oh, we can do this, or maybe if we do this time, like this will be better, So I think I apply it to all aspects of my life,
Yes.
especially because it's something that I was always surrounded by.
Right. So it's just the water that you swim in. It's the air you breathe. That's just what you're made of. Mm-hmm. I get it. So of all your education and your professional experiences and experiences with students and parents, what have you learned most about yourself, and what do you feel as though you've been taught by some of these interactions?
I've been fortunate enough to work with so many diverse families, and I've been able to see, I feel like that I learn more from them than they do from me most of the time. And it's because of those experiences that I've had working with these families that kind of pushed me to want to do more. I could help them on a bigger scale with my current position that I have now. And I think it's all because of the past experiences that I've had in working in the homes with my kiddos and their parents. Another thing that I've learned through my time working in home health and stuff is that I'm definitely not ready to have kids yet. It's great.
It's good to know.
Yes,
good to know.
That's one thing that they've definitely taught me. And I've hoped that I maybe have just made, even like if it's like the smallest impact on their children's life, then my work is done,
I do know. And I think that if more of us focused on the smaller impacts, the larger ones will come, because it's in the subtleties that we notice things. It's in the subtleties that differences are made. So I think when we pull back so much that we're just focused on the big, the big production, the big achievement, then we get lost. All the other things get lost. So I appreciate that. I want to know what you would say to those. So we're going to have listeners that will hear you, Abigail, and they'll think, okay, well, Abigail has this great network. She had these wonderful grandparents, this wonderful family. She has this whole group of friends that just love her. She loves them. Yay. Easy for her. Has it always been easy for you? And if it hasn't, and if somebody's listening, what can you tell them to make life easier for them, or to find a path where they can be most persistent?
Yeah. Definitely has not been easy. I've definitely had my setbacks and, ups and downs. Just it's life. And the one thing I think that has helped me kind of persist through it all is having an outlet. It's having like a hobby or something to where when you do it, you're just focused on that and you're not worried about all the noise going on all around you. And that's your time to think and really connect with yourself and figure out, if what you're doing is what you want to do or if there's changes that need to be made. I think having that an outlet to where you can really like have time to, I guess, communicate with yourself.
Yes.
As far as what you're doing and where you're going.
So it sounds as though you're very reflective. You're aware, you're self-aware, but you are intentional about being reflective within yourself. Do you make time for yourself every day or carve out a certain amount during the week? Or is it just as you're just living life, you're just reflecting upon?
I've definitely come up with a system. Since I do home health, at the end of the day, I usually have like a decent drive home, and that's my time to reflect on the day. And then usually, like on the weekends, I'll reflect on the week or the month that I'm having or the year. I feel like 2022 has been like 3 years in these last like 2 weeks.
Yes.
So yeah, I always just make sure that I carve out some time at the end of the day to reflect on what I'm doing, how I can make it better, and if everything's, checking all the boxes, then, we're in business. Like, I'm doing good.
That's awesome. And I think we all probably need to spend more time in reflection. But I'm trying to be respectful of time, and I'm going to close out in a bit. We'll start that process. But before I do and start asking those final questions, I want to ask you, are there any comments or messages that you would like to send out to anyone that's listening that maybe a thought you had prepared for or something you just want to really make sure you say today?
Yeah, definitely. I would advise everybody to not be afraid to take that chance. It goes back to what my professor said during that seminar about not wanting to, reflect back on your life when you're old and gray and think, man, I wish I would have done that. Or I wonder what would have happened if I would have, taken that job, or what would have happened if I would have accepted that scholarship or, gone out on that date. Or, I would just say, don't be afraid to take that chance. You don't want to have regrets later on in life. And some of the most beautiful experiences can come through that one chance that you took.
I love it, because that takes courage to take a chance.
Mm-hmm.
Have you had to muster courage from time to time to take a chance that maybe, I know you've taken lots of academically, but is there anything recently that you haven't quite built up the courage to do, to take a chance, or are you still working on it?
Right now, probably the chance that I'm like thinking about taking but not sure yet is now that, I'm finally done with school, I definitely have more time on my hands. So I want to do more things as far as like to grow my career.
Yes.
So I'm actually in the process of taking a chance. And I picking up like a PRN job on the side.
PRN?
Like as needed.
Okay.
In a hospital,
okay,
which is something that I've always wanted. And at first, I wasn't sure if it was something I could handle. And then I told myself, just take the chance and see what happens. So I took the chance, and I start in a couple of weeks. So we'll see how busy I get.
Well, congratulations. Good luck and all the things. I'm sure it's going to turn out successful for you. But as we begin to close out, I have a few rapid fire phrases. Okay. This is something that's new.
Okay.
And you're one of the lucky ones that I'm trying it out on. Okay. So I'm going to just say a beginning of a phrase, and you finish it. No right answers or wrong answers, just your thoughts.
Okay.
Okay, you ready?
Yes.
Okay, here we go. I believe in
magic.
I trust
My grandparents.
I love.
My family.
I fear.
Failing.
I forgive.
Anything that's done me wrong in the past.
I want.
To be happy.
I believe in luck, hard work, or miracles.
Hard work.
Final one. I persist because.
Oh, wow, that's a tough one. I persist because I want to do the best that I can with the time that I'm allotted on this earth.
Lovely. Abigail, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
It was such a pleasure talking with you today, and I'm so glad Big O connected us in this way. I look forward to hearing about all your successes coming your way, and hopefully we can connect in another way, maybe in a project, because, you know, we work with young people too. So I would love to collaborate, hopefully, in the future. But to our audience, thank you so much for listening. I hope you've listened to the entire conversation and all the other conversations we've had. Let's all be like Abigail and take a chance and hopefully find a beautiful path forward. Have a great day.